Hi, welcome to this week's Quantum Alignment Show. And I am excited to have you all here. This is part 4 of our 6-part series, Healing Your Inner Child by Human Design. So I've got a whole bunch of stuff about manifesting generators to share with you guys today. Traditional human design was written, the language of traditional human design is all about helping you understand who you're not. The language of traditional human design can sometimes feel to people to be really unsettling or even hurtful. It's not all bad, but there are aspects of it that can feel really stark and harsh. And that's because it's a language that was created deliberately to shock you or to initiate you out of choices and behaviors that were not in alignment with the true story of who you are. Quantum human design, the new language that I've been creating, is really about not talking about what you're not, but really giving you some vocabulary to begin to expand into exploring who you really are and giving you the language that will help you craft a personal narrative that's more true to the magnificence, the beauty, the power, the worth, the everything delicious that is you. So we have been exploring for the last 4 quantum alignment shows. We've been exploring reclaiming your inner child by human design. This is class 4. We're going to be talking about manifesting generators. So in this class, just a little bit of a warning, you might get triggered. And the only reason why you might get triggered is because sometimes we have grief. We experience grief when we think about how we could have been raised, or if our parents had only understood these aspects of who we are. So I just want to just sort of lay it out for you that it might cause you to contemplate what you didn't have, perhaps in the way of supportive parenting, with the understanding that my intention in this program is not to talk about how bad your parents were or what your parents didn't do for you, or for us to walk away having regrets around our parents and the life our parents gave us, but rather just to give you an awareness on what you need to feel loved and supported, or perhaps what inner pains or old hurts from being a child that maybe didn't quite get your energy needs met appropriately, to give you some insights and clues into what perhaps you need to explore to deepen your own path of healing. This is not about blaming our parents. They were also raising you with their own design and with their own experiences that they had themselves, their own conditioning. So when we look at children and we look at why children do the things that they do, and I know this is a repetition of what we've looked at before, but for those of you who have not seen this presentation, I want you to understand kind of where I'm coming from in this perspective. If you imagine that you're looking at a child through a window, and that window has 4 panes, each one of these 4 panes in the window gives you a point of view or a perspective on why your child is doing what they're doing. The first pane, and this is what we're going to be looking at, the first window pane that we see our child through, is through the lens of human design. This is a lens that most parents don't have. Most parents can't look at their children through the lens of human design because they don't know human design and they don't know their kids' human design. And so right there, when our parents are looking at us or when we're looking at our own children, if we don't understand human design or our children's unique energy blueprint, sometimes it causes us to misinterpret some of the things that they're doing. And we think what they're doing is a problem when in fact it's an artifact of their energy needs and their unique energy blueprint. We will talk about that today in the context of manifesting generator children. When we look at children, we also have to look through the window pane of where they are in terms of child development. As we grow from birth to adulthood, we have specific developmental tasks that we need to master, that we need to mature. And part of the role of a parent is to give your child lessons and support and opportunities to explore how to grow into the mastery of these developmental challenges. For example, children who are between the ages of, say, 2 and about 5 have a developmental challenge to learn to differentiate who they are separate from their parents and to begin to discover for themselves their own personal power. That's why 2-year-olds say no, because they're learning how to be appropriately powerful as children. And as they go through adolescence, they go through a second cycle with a similar role, a similar purpose, as you are when you go through being a teenager, you have that same role all over again of learning to differentiate and to become powerful, and doing it through the lens of where you are developmentally and through the lens of course, your own human design as well is important. If you don't get to master these things, if nobody teaches you or supports you in finding appropriate ways to grow into your developmental challenges, we have a tendency to carry those lessons with us into adulthood and begin to live out those lessons and try to get those lessons mastered in our adult lives and in our adult relationships. Looking at our children through the lens of our personal conditioning is also important. The way we see our children and the way we interpret the things that our children are doing is also influenced by our own personal conditioning, our own belief systems, our own philosophies around parenting, our own experiences as children ourselves. And what I tend to see most commonly, and this is just the most common variation of this that I see, there are lots of other variations of this, but this one is one I see the most. If you grow up or if your parents were raised in a very authoritarian household, people who are raised in a very authoritarian household tend to become permissive parents as a reaction to having been raised with a lot of power and overpowering. People who are raised in very permissive households have a tendency to overcompensate by being very authoritarian in the way they raise their kids because they're responding to the lack of boundaries. Good, healthy parenting is really sort of a blend of authoritarian and permissive parenting. It's more like a really nice, strong backbone that moves and bends as necessary, that isn't too rigid like a wall, but not so soft that there are no boundaries. Children need both limits and the opportunity to explore their capability in good, healthy parenting relationships. Last but not least, when we look at children and we're exploring children and why they do what they do, if we look through the bottom right window pane, we see that children misbehave. And when we look at a child's behavior, if we don't understand why a child is doing what they're doing, and a lot of times misbehavior is a child's way of getting their unique energy needs met based on their human design, albeit in an inappropriate way. And one of our roles as parents is to interpret our child's behavior so that we can start helping them learn appropriate ways, healthy ways to get their energy needs met. In this class, we're going to be looking at the energy needs of the manifesting generator and what maybe you needed as a manifesting generator, and what, if you are a parent of a manifesting generator, you can do to support your child in becoming the fullest expression of who they are. We tend to think that children misbehave because they are spoiled, they are bad, they're just like their parents, they are jealous, needy, clingy, whiny, etc. They have attention deficit disorder or some other psychological issue, which sometimes is the case, but not always. And if we have this philosophy, our belief system is that if a child is misbehaving, it's because the parent's not doing a good job controlling them. What we know from human design is that nobody is here to be controlled. Nobody is here to be told what to do, which makes parenting a very different kind of a beast when we look at it through the lens of human design. The real reason children misbehave is because they have unmet energy needs, and because they're children, they're young, and they're immature. They don't have the skill set yet to appropriately express those needs, so they act out because that's the only way they know how to elicit a specific emotional response from you as the parent, because that emotional response that they get from you as a parent, or that behavioral response that they get from you as a parent, helps them inappropriately get their energy needs met. When you learn how to interpret and understand why your child is misbehaving, when you start to understand what their energy needs are based on their human design, you start to be able to cultivate a healthy parenting strategy that supports your child in learning how to communicate their needs and wants, and learn how to get their needs and wants met appropriately, and for them to learn how to master those developmental challenges that they have over the course of their life that help them grow into healthy adults. Children need, at the core of their being, regardless of their type, they need to feel lovable, they need to feel powerful and capable, they need to experiment and explore, and they need good, healthy attention. When children get all of these needs met in the way that's right for their human design, they grow up to be strong and healthy, resilient adults. Here's something I want to slide in that I have not talked about yet. because I've been talking a lot in the last couple of weeks about the importance of cultivating faith and growing in your partnership, your creative partnership with the divine or the quantum field or God or source or whatever word you want to insert there. Faith is a skill set. Knowing how to create by being able to plant intentional seeds and knowing how to, by virtue of your emotional frequency and your faith, grow intentions into manifestations through consciously working with your energy and having faith. When you have that skill set, when you are able to use your faith muscle as part of your creative power, you are able to create beyond the limitations of your physical well-being. We learn to create in this way. We learn to cultivate faith by trusting in source, standing in our value, suspending judgments about our thoughts. So we let ourselves have really expansive, beautiful, dreamy thoughts, by trusting our intuition and understanding the mechanics of co-creating with the divine. The place where we learn faith is from our parents. Our parents and the relationship we have with our parents as children represent the relationship that we ultimately cultivate with the divine, source, God, whatever you want to put in there. The relationship that you have with your parents teaches you a lot, or will show you a lot, about where you might be struggling with your relationship with Creator. So if you think about it, our parents, especially when we're small children, our parents seem omnipresent, right? They are designed to be unconditionally loving, empowering, encouraging, modeling for us how we should behave, and aligning. And when we see our parents acting this way, and when our parents raise us in such a way that supports our mastery of some of these key elements of faith, then we grow into adults who are able to harness the power of faith as an essence of our creative capacity. The only reason I'm bringing this up is that sometimes when we have challenges with trusting and having faith, or having faith in surrendering and letting source deliver to us the goods, when we have struggles in a very mundane way of letting ourselves follow our human design strategies, sometimes it's because there was a little bit of a hiccup in our ability to learn about God or source or having faith from our parents, that maybe we didn't get that support. And it's always an interesting exploration to think about, what did your parents represent to you? And is that representation of your parent as being kind of a mini God in your life, is that representation of your relationship with your parents being duplicated in your current relationship with source and your ability to cultivate faith? I'm only planting the seed of this thought here for you now, because in the upcoming Master Alignment program, we're going to be going deep into some of these themes. And I'm kind of setting you up to get ready to go through this incredible process and activate your faith and your ability to surrender to the bigger cosmic plan unfolding through you. Each child is going to get their energy needs met in different ways depending on their human design. Today, we're going to be talking about manifesting generators. So let's start first by really looking at the chart and what makes a manifesting generator a generator by virtue of the chart. Because when you start to understand the parts and bits of it, it starts to make sense about why your children or you behaved the way that you do. Oops, that's the wrong way. The first thing that a manifesting generator has, that should say manifesting generator at the top there. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to fix it right now, because if I don't, people will get confused, and I don't want to confuse you at all. Okay. What makes a manifesting generator a manifesting generator? See, fixed. A defined sacral. They will first and foremost have a defined sacral, and they will have a defined motor to the throat center. So let's look at what this looks like. So this is the sacral center. Only generators and manifesting generators will have this defined. So that's about 70% of the people on this planet have this center defined. Manifesting generators are about 33-ish% of the population. This is a motor in human design. This motor is the most powerful motor in the human design chart. This is workforce and life force energy, but most importantly, beyond that, this is sustainable energy, meaning when this center gets activated correctly, and the way you activate it correctly is you wait to see what shows up and you respond, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. When you are responding to what's showing up in your world and following the things that feel good and right, this energy source gets activated. And when it gets activated, it's a sustainable source of energy. And it is literally the only sustainable source of energy in the chart. All of the other power sources in the chart are variable in the way in which they function. And that's important to understand, because this ability to keep going and going and going and going and going sustainably is a quality of energy that's unique to the generator types, and in particular to the manifesting generator, who does it a little bit differently than the generator. The second thing that's important to know about the sacral is that it has the ability to give guidance and clarity about the next right step. It tells the truth about what's going on with the generator human, and it gives you the cues and the clues as to the next right thing to do. So this sacral motor makes a sound, and the sound that it makes is uh-huh and So generator types, all generator types, including manifesting generators, are designed to, in response to yes or no questions, tell the truth if they respond with these sounds. So if you are a generator, or you have a generator child, or you have a manifesting generator child, and they are confused, or they don't know what to do, or you need to get them to cooperate with you, or you need to inspire them to collaborate with you in some way, shape, or form, if you ask them a yes or no question, you give them the opportunity to respond. And that opportunity to respond with those sounds not only gives them connection to what's the next right step for me, it also gives them access to energy. It literally, like the key to a car, the sounds turn the motor of this center on. And once you get this motor cranking, if you are a manifesting generator who has lost a connection to this motor, if over the course of your life you've learned to override your gut level feeling, that intuitive right place, right time, right decision feeling that this sacral motor can give you, if you've been trained to override it with your mind, starting the process of responding to yes or no questions will get this engine turned back on, so that you have access to this beautiful source of truth and alignment that is unique to this sacral center. If you are a generator or a manifesting generator and you're struggling with clarity, it only takes a couple of questions for you to break through all the mental stuff to get immediately clear about what it is that you're supposed to be doing, what the next right step is for you. So I'm getting ready to teach a professional class about how to do sacral sessions. And I did some sample sacral sessions to record for my class this week with some generators. And I've had such a great chuckle because when I do a sacral session, I listen to my client for about 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. I let them talk and let them unpack verbally all the stuff that's going on. And then I ask them a couple of yes or no questions. And it's so interesting and beautiful and kind of funny in a good way to hear them go, oh, because they'll get clarity on what they've been struggling with on a cognitive, cerebral level, sometimes for months, simply by going, oh. The awareness and the ability to use that sacral to slice through all the mind chatter, all the fear, all the confusion, all the struggle for clarity, and to simply, through making these sounds, wake that truth up, wake up to that clarity. It's really kind of beautiful to watch, and also kind of funny to think about how much we twist ourselves up in our head when we could just simply, as manifesting generators, be responding and get to clarity pretty quickly. If you are a generator type and you are confused about what you need to be doing as the next right step in your life, if you go to the quantumalignmentsystem.com, go to the Human Design Specialists page, many of those human design specialists are trained to do sacral sessions, and you can hire somebody to ask you a good, strong, really aligned set of questions. It takes 15 minutes, if even, to bust through the confusion and get to the clarity. There is one exception to the sacral sounds. That is this. If you have this channel colored in on your chart, and it could be red, it can be black and red. This is what we call the archetype of the manifesting generator. This is the only kind of manifesting generator definition where the sacral center itself gets directly to the throat without passing through another center. People who have this channel defined can be so quick with their response that they might not have enough time to go, And if you have this defined in your chart, you need to be responding to the yes or no questions of the generator type, those yes or no generator questions, with whatever comes out of your mouth first. So it might be might be might be yep, might be nope, might be yeah, might be okay. Whatever it is, it's whatever comes out of your mouth first, that's your sacral sound. So I did a reading one time for someone who's the whole reading, she was like, okay. And I finally realized, oh, duh, this is her sacral sound, right? I have a son, my oldest son has this configuration, totally can't make the sacral sounds, really has to struggle to make the sounds. So his sacral sound is yep, nope, My best friend, same thing, yep, nope. Those are more sacral sounds, more true sacral sounds than the Remember that there are 4 motors in human design. The manifesting generator has a defined sacral, but they also have a defined motor to the throat. So in conjunction with the defined sacral, the manifesting generator is going to have either the will center, the little red triangle to the throat center defined through any of these channels. And I got an email last week about, I don't have these channels, but I'm still a manifester or still manifesting generator. It's not about having all of these. It's any of these, any combination of these. So if you can take your pencil, put it on the will center, follow it along on colored, on any kind of colored in channel and find your way to the throat, kind of like when we did mazes as a kid, without picking up your pencil, then you have this motor to the throat. You can also have the root center to the throat, the emotional solar plexus to the throat, or the sacral to the throat. And there are some other more creative ways that the sacral can get to the throat, but this is sacral to the throat energy. So you can have a manifesting generator that has 3 open motors. I have 3 open motors. I'm a manifesting generator. My only motor to the throat is the sacral. And my sacral gets to the throat up the middle of the chart. So you can have any of the other 3 motors, the solar plexus, the root, or the ego, or you can have just straight up sacral to the throat. If you have any of these 4 motors connected to the throat and you have a defined sacral with it, you have a manifesting generator chart. What that means is this. And let's walk through this. Each energy type plays a unique role. If you were going to put on a show, if you're going to put on a stage production, the manifesting generator would be part of the crew. They are here to do the workforce energy, do the lights, camera, action. All of the generator types are the true builders of the world. So they're going to be the ones that do the work of putting the show on. The manifesting generators are different, though, than the pure generators, which is what we talked about in our last class. The manifesting generator is kind of like a buy one, get one free kind of type. If you are a manifesting generator, you have an internal, nonverbal creative flow that you have to follow. That is the same quality of energy that a manifestor type has. So you have this internal nonverbal creative flow that moves very, very quickly, that when you are a manifesting generator and you're moving through the kitchen and you're, on your way between your office and the bedroom, passing through the kitchen, you're inside your head creating as you go. You're on a path, you're on a mission in your head, without words. You've got either a visual or a sensual sense of what you're building and creating and what you're in the process of doing. And if in any step along that journey in your movement, you get interrupted by somebody standing in the way, or somebody who starts talking to you and wants to know, what are you doing? Or somebody tries to help you without asking. it funks with your flow. It disrupts that creative flow, which can energetically sometimes be ugly. Okay? But unlike the manifestor type, you are also a generator type. You have a defined sacral. So you're also here to work and build. So that gives the manifesting generator this internal nonverbal creative flow that they have to follow, plus the energy to start putting it to work, to start building on whatever it is that they have this creative urge around. And that is where it gets interesting. Because as a manifesting generator, you're not a manifester. You are still a generator. And that's important to understand, which I'll get to in just a second. Your purpose as a manifesting generator is to do the work of the world, just like the generator, and to become masterful at that work. And that work, by the way, isn't the same thing necessarily as a job. Your work and your job are not the same thing. It's the work of fulfilling the story of who you are, of fulfilling the expression of everything that's in the chart that's you. Every human design type has a particular strategy. The strategy for the manifesting generators, and this is where it gets hard because they have an internal nonverbal creative flow just like a manifestor, but they're not here to initiate, to start things the way a manifestor is. So that can be really frustrating for a manifesting generator. So even though you have all this energy as a manifesting generator, you're not here to start things out of your head, but to wait to respond. So I'll walk through this. This is the exact same thing we talked about as being with the generator. If you are a generator and you're at work, you're here at your work in your office and you think, oh, I need a vacation. The manifesting generator, if they're not living true to their type, the second they would have had that thought, they would have booked a flight somewhere. Maybe even a couple of flights somewhere. All right? That's not responding. That's initiating. So when you are a manifesting generator, you still have to wait to respond. So let's say our generator here says, I need a vacation. That afternoon, they go for their annual physical and the doctor says, oh my gosh, you are about to tank your adrenals. You're really, really burned out. You got to get some rest. You got to get some downtime. On your way home, you see this beautiful billboard with the beach scene on it and your sacral says, I want to go to the beach. Yeah? You come home in your mailbox before you open the door to your house. You see you have a postcard in your mailbox. This postcard's from your friend who has moved to the Cayman Islands, and they're saying to you, wow, you should move down here. It's really beautiful. Come visit. And your sacral goes, oh, yeah. Okay. Now, because now you've got something in your external reality that's given you a signal that it's time for you to initiate that powerful creative force that is you into action. Now you can go in the house, open up your laptop, go to Kayak and book yourself a flight to the Cayman Islands or wherever you respond to going. Manifesting generators have to wait for something to show up in their outer reality, just like a generator. Okay, but, and here's the but, when they do respond, when a manifesting generator responds, they tend to respond very quickly. And so sometimes for the manifesting generator, teasing out response and action can be a little bit tricky, especially if you're like doing hindsight, trying to figure out, did I respond? Because the speed at which you respond is so fast because of that internal nonverbal creative flow, you get that click and you're already gone. When you are following that internal nonverbal creative flow, if you don't pay attention as a manifesting generator to who is going to be impacted by your movement, because that part of your energy field that has that internal nonverbal creative flow moves so fast that it creates an energetic ripple wherever you go. When you move through the kitchen, or you're at the dinner table and you get up to go get the salt in the other room, it creates an energetic ripple. And that ripple creates unease in the people around you. There are people around you, if you're moving at that speed, who are like, wait, what's happening? And are trying to defend themselves consciously or unconsciously from that ripple of your movement. And one of the things that they do to try to figure out what's happening when they feel a manifesting generator or a manifester move through their auric field is they ask this question, can I help you? Or they ask this question, what are you doing? Anytime you get asked a question, when you are a manifesting generator, it causes you to drop out of your creative flow. The minute you have to start putting language to whatever it is that you're doing, it slows you down. And it can cause you to have an intense emotional response to the question, which probably was coming from the nicest, most genuinely loving place. When somebody says to you, hey, can I help you? They're not trying to stop you, control you, manipulate you. They're oftentimes just trying to figure out, what are you doing? Is there anything I need to be doing in this equation of what's happening here? But manifesting generators, when they get asked, what are you doing? Or can I help you? In response to that, because it causes them to drop out of that creative flow is like a lightning bolt. It's an enormous amount of energy, and it doesn't have anywhere to go when it doesn't get pointed in its directive, in its creative process. And so what happens is the manifesting generator will sometimes explode emotionally because they're not really mad at you, okay? But they feel this interruption in this creative flow, and it's intense and it's powerful. And that creative energy, when it doesn't get an outlet, if you don't respond to it, if you're not able to release that energy, it ricochets around the body like a lightning bolt. And it's actually not healthy for the manifesting generator. So manifesting generators have to respond, but before they take action, they've got to take a survey of, okay, who's going to be impacted by my actions and inform, which is not natural for any of the manifesting types. So a manifestor and a manifesting generator, that informing thing is something you have to train yourself to do. It's not natural, and it feels stifling. But in the end, it actually saves you an enormous amount of time, because when people know what you're doing, when they understand what you're doing, they can prepare themselves for that ripple in the energy field that is you. So manifesting generators need to respond and then inform before they go do. Okay? And sometimes I'll add one more step to this. Sometimes, because manifesting generators can move very quickly, and they have a tendency to be doing more than one thing at a time because they have so much energy. They have that sustainable workforce energy of the sacral plus the manifesting configuration from that motor that gets to the throat. They need to multitask because they have to stay busy. Because if they don't stay busy, inert manifesting generators implode. It's not healthy for manifesting generators to not be active, to not be doing. But what happens a lot of times for manifesting generators is they do 2, 3, 4 things at a time. And by the way, if you're a manifesting generator and you multitask, just because you're doing those many things doesn't mean that every one of those things you're doing is going to be successful. Of the 4 to 5 things that you're doing right now, 1 or 2 of them will probably bear fruit. The other things that you're doing to keep yourself occupied, to use up your extra energy. And there's no failing for you. You have not failed if everything you're doing doesn't bear fruit. You need to be doing to keep your energy occupied and operating at an optimal level. The thing that we tend to tell manifesting generators over and over again, especially children, is we tell them, you need to focus. You need to pick one thing and focus on it and stop doing all this other stuff. That's not correct for a manifesting generator. In fact, that's not healthy. And it causes a manifesting generator to lose connection with their own inner authority and their own power of their own creative essence. So if you are raising a manifesting generator, give them opportunities to multitask and don't put pressure on them to be successful at everything they try. They're not going to be successful at everything they try. It's not about even trying or learning from their mistakes. That's another important part. It's about keeping their energy occupied so that they're not exploding when they're forced to go through one little narrow channel of creativity. So manifesting generators, wait to respond. When you do respond, take stock of who's going to be impacted by your actions, inform, and don't you dare focus on one thing only. Let yourself respond to everything that's juicy and delightful for you, and don't pressure yourself if you don't complete everything you start. You will complete the things you are supposed to complete, and the things that you don't were there for you to learn how to healthily burn off excess energy. There are 3 keys to creating effectively in the world. The first key is your type and strategy. We just talked about that for the manifesting generator. Second key is authority. The third key is your profile. When we look at your authority, it influences strategy, but it doesn't change the strategy. Strategy is always going to be paramount. It's going to always be the thing you pay attention to. The manifesting generator has either sacral authority, which means they are designed to respond in the moment and go do what they're going to do. Emotional authority means if you are a manifesting generator and you have a defined sacral, which you will, and you have emotional authority, it doesn't mean you stop responding. You're always going to be responding no matter what your authority, but how your authority is defined, if you have a defined authority beyond your sacral, is going to influence how you respond, how your sacral operates. If you are emotionally defined, which means you have that brown triangle on the right-hand side of your chart, you will have one of these or more of these channels colored in on your chart. If you have emotional authority, it means you need to respond in the moment to whatever it is that is coming your way that is either going to feel amazing or not. But you don't act on it until you've waited at least a day, or at least waited a period of time, a day, a few days, a week, depending on your own inner feeling. While you're waiting, and a lot of this is going to depend on your unique chart too, how long you wait. While you're waiting, your sacral response has to stay the same over time. So if you get something to respond to and you say, yeah, let's do it. Don't do it yet. Continue to check in with yourself over a period of time and make sure that that wild and delicious stays the same. That you keep responding yes to that opportunity over time. And when you know that that response is going to stay consistent for you, then you can inform and take action. Splenic authority, in terms of a generator, really just means your sacral takes precedent, so don't even worry about it. Some of you are going to see splenic authority on your chart. Your sacral is going to be so loud and so in the moment that your spleen and your sacral are pretty much going to fire simultaneously, so don't even worry about splenic authority. The challenges for the manifesting generator. The challenge is finding the right work, frustration and quitting, patience and waiting, and trusting your inner response. The challenges for the manifesting generator includes finding the right work, frustration and quitting, patience, which is a really big challenge for manifesting generators, waiting, and trusting your inner response. Every human design type has an emotional theme. The emotional theme for the manifesting generator is frustration and anger. So just like I said, remember that the manifesting generator is a 2-for-1 type. They have the frustration of the generator type, but the anger of the manifestor type. Remember that anger is the symptom of the creative flow, that internal nonverbal creative flow, getting interrupted. So when a manifesting generator is angry, they're not really angry. They're not mad. They are experiencing the disruption of that internal nonverbal creative flow, and that energy has to go somewhere, and it is experienced as anger. It's not really anger. It's creative disruption. The frustration comes from this. Generator types, all generator types, operate on a stair-step learning curve. Anytime you are a generator type, that's the generators and the manifesting generators, when you respond to something, your initial response, you get a surge in mastery. Something great happens, your energy gets aligned, you kind of cruise along, and things move quickly and deliciously. At a certain point, as a manifesting generator and a generator, you're going to get to a place where you're not going to have that same quality of momentum. You're going to hit a plateau. Generator types report that plateau as feeling stuck. Generator types will always say to you, I feel stuck, I feel blocked, I feel stuck. That stuckness is what happens when you're building momentum for a breakthrough for the next level in mastery. Generator types have a stair-step learning curve. So they will go up in their mastery, sit on a plateau, go up in their mastery, sit on a plateau. Frustration is a symptom of momentum building. It's not really frustration, it's momentum building. It's like, kinetic energy. It's starting to build. You can sense and feel you're about to have a breakthrough, but nothing's happening fast enough. And so you're starting to feel that momentum, and it's frustrating because it's not popping the way you thought it would. Manifesting generators don't follow that same formula. They have a tendency to skip over steps. So if you put a manifesting generator and a generator at a starting line and you watch their progress, in the beginning, if they both respond to the same thing, the generator is going to go kind of slow and steady wins the race, like the tortoise, right? In the story of the tortoise and the hare. Surge in mastery plateau, surge in mastery plateau, surge in mastery plateau. The manifesting generator is going to leap. They're like the rabbit in the tortoise and the hare story, right? They're the hare. They're leaping, and the manifesting generators tend to leap over steps. So they'll leap over steps. What happens is they're actually designed to skip some steps. Part of the role of the manifesting generator is to find the fastest, quickest, easiest way to do something. Some of the steps they skip are good steps to skip because some of the steps we take are unnecessary, and manifesting generators can find the most efficient way to get through something, to do something, to build something. But sometimes they have to go back and redo the steps they skipped because they were important steps. That is also, by the way, frustrating for the manifesting generator. And here's the thing I want you to understand as a parent of a manifesting generator, or if you were a manifesting generator child. It does not matter how diligently and carefully you tend to the details of whatever it is that you're doing. If you are a manifesting generator, you're going to miss a step. It's part of the process. And it's not personal, it's not careless, it's not attention deficit disorder, it's not you're moving too fast. If you just focused on one thing, you wouldn't skip any steps. It's the nature of the manifesting generator. They need to skip steps. It's part of the process. But they have to go back and fix the ones that need to be fixed. And to do that, they have to respond to the opportunity to go back and fix the step they skipped. All of that builds frustration because here you have this very powerful being that's capable of doing multiple things at the same time. Now they're moving really, really fast. They think they're over here, but actually they're not. They're over here because now they have to go back and fix the step they skipped. So back to our little story about the generator and the manifesting generators starting out at the same time. Generators say to me a lot, I'm just a generator. So the thing is just a generator. You are a pure, powerful generator. Manifesting generator is a little bit different. So stop comparing apples and oranges. You are who you are. They are who they are. The manifesting generator will, in the beginning, seem to be moving faster because they're skipping steps and they're moving really quickly. But at a certain point, they're going to have to go back and fix the steps they skipped. And if you start at point A and you measure where the generator and the manifesting generator end up at point B, they usually both end up at point B at the same time. So one isn't actually really faster than the other. They're just different. The spiritual job of the manifesting generator is to turn inspiration into form. The quantum name of the manifesting generator is the time bender. The role of the manifesting generator is to physically manifest creativity and speed up the quantum process in linear time. That function of learning the fastest, most effective way through things actually speeds and changes our perception of time. And that's really the cosmic role of the time bender types. So if we look at it through these lenses, frustration and anger equals creative disruption and momentum. Frustration and anger equals creative disruption and momentum. Challenges for the manifesting generator include feeling alone, feeling different than others, and feeling disconnected from source. Of course, the lesson here, not so much the challenge, but the lesson is to learn to surrender, to trust that if you are responding and taking care of all the little things that you feel inspired to follow, and you are leaping in, and you know that some of the things you do are going to bear fruit, some not. You know that some of the things you're going to have to go back and fix, some not, because those weren't the things to bring to mastery anyway. And you trust in divine timing, which is really hard for the manifesting generator. And you let go and you surrender and let the next right step show up. You'll be in the right place at the right time, fulfilling your right purpose. So, questions to contemplate if you are a generator or a manifesting generator is, am I expressing my mastery or am I settling for less? And the settling for less for the manifesting generator means, are you letting yourself feeling are you letting your the lessons that people gave you about you should just pick one thing, are you letting yourself take the entire expansive nature of your creative capacity and forcing it into a little very narrow stream because everybody told you need to focus better? Are you letting that experience block your mastery and settle for less? And on the second note, is frustration and anger because you're quitting and giving up, is that keeping you from fulfilling your masterful destiny? Manifesting generator challenges include getting people to understand their speed. If you were a kid and everybody kept telling you, slow down, slow down, slow down, and you learn to judge your speed as being bad, then you've disconnected from an aspect of your essence. The second thing the second big challenge is getting people to understand their multitasking nature. Again, if over the course of your life, people kept telling you, you need to pick one thing. You need to just pick one thing. Why can't you just focus on one thing? Why do you have to do all this other stuff? You just need to focus. If you bought into that story, then you disconnected from an aspect of your creative nature. If frustration and anger, frustration causing you to quit, and anger, if you got in trouble for getting anger, for getting disrupted, for getting your creative flow interrupted, if you were angry and people told you stop being angry and you got in trouble for your intensity, and you learned to go internal with that, you may have learned to cut yourself off from the freedom of following that internal nonverbal creative flow, and that's not healthy in the manifesting generator. Manifesting generators have a lot of energy. When you are raising a manifesting generator child, they need to burn that energy off every day. And oftentimes what happens for manifesting generators is if they cut themselves off from their innate energy and they're not burning that energy out every day, if you are inert and not creating and not moving and not using all that fire that is the essence of who you are, you will probably be struggling with sleep, and B, feeling deeply frustrated. And that frustration, especially if you can't express it appropriately, goes underground. And then we go into things like addictions and avoidance and depression and anxiety because we're not moving our energy correctly. Manifesting generators need to learn to inform. If they don't, they run the risk of getting blowback from people around them, and it's not a constructive situation to be in. As I said, they need to burn their energy out in order to rest. It has been my experience of raising two manifesting generators, being raised by two manifesting generators, being a manifesting generator in a family of manifesting generators. I only have one person in my family. My sister is a manifestor. Everybody else is a manifesting generator. Oy, oy, oy. Patience is a virtue that manifesting generators are not born with. They have to learn it, which means your manifesting generator child is potentially going to be frustrated. And if you weren't allowed to find appropriate ways to express that frustration, you will have learned to judge your impatience or go underground with it or disconnect again from your creative essence. I will share with you a story from my own childhood. My mother tells this story all the time. when I first learned to walk, before I could actually walk well, at the house where I was growing up, we had one of those screened-in doors that had a spring on it, right? And I decided that I was going to figure out how to get out that screened-in door, even though I couldn't go down the stairs that were on the other side of the door. And I really couldn't walk that well yet. I was still not even 1 year old. And I spent days trying to master this door, and I was extremely frustrated. And my mother has little black and white photos from 1960 of me sitting on the floor outside the door, actually on the inside of the door, crying with my little fists all balled up because the door, I could not get the door to function, right? There's some kind of strange metaphor in that. My mother wasn't always as patient with my frustration as I think now she would be as a more mature person. I think she would be much more tolerant of my frustration. But in those days, I definitely was not allowed to express frustration. And I very, very quickly learned to go very much underground with my frustration and internalize it, which took me a while to make peace with and to kind of process in a more healthy way as I got older. So learning to be patient and learning to cultivate patience and learning how to be present to the anger and the frustration without expressing it inappropriately and hurting others, which can happen, and learning how to be present to it and seeing it for what it is, as either creative disruption or that momentum that happens before the breakthrough, and not quitting and not taking it out on innocent people is an important part of the manifesting generator energy. The thing with the manifesting generators is if they don't master patience, they'll override the divine plan. They'll say things consciously or unconsciously like, okay, here's the deal, God. You have until Thursday to get this handled. But if by Thursday I don't have a job, I don't have money, I haven't figured out whatever, X, Y, and Z, I'm just going to take things into my own hand. And you can, but only to a certain degree. You will not have the degree of success that you could have if you wait for alignment, if you wait for things to show up and you learn patience. And of course, as I said, the skipping steps thing can be sometimes problematic because, again, we have a tendency to judge people who skip steps because we think they're skipping steps because they're not focused or they're not paying attention or they're not being careful. And that's not true for the manifesting generator. It does not matter how careful you are, you will skip steps. As I said, generators and manifesting generators need to wear themselves out every day physically in order to sleep well. So if you're not sleeping well and you're a manifesting generator, very important for you to pay attention to, are you getting enough physical activity? That's not the only thing, but that's the first thing I would encourage you to look at. Parenting challenges. Your challenge, if you are a parent of a manifesting generator, is to raise a child with a strong sense of capability and the awareness of the potential for frustration and keeping them aligned with their creative power. So they need a lot of freedom and a lot of information about, wow, you're feeling really frustrated. Learning how to be a container for your child's frustration and anger and being present to it and giving them the information that they need to help them understand, why am I feeling this way? Instead of shutting them down and blocking those feelings. If you are parenting a manifesting generator, you need to help them learn to burn energy in a healthy way because they're going to be active. You want to teach them how to interpret frustration and to manage anger. Teach them to inform. Teach them the power of waiting. And of course, teach them the power of responding. First and foremost, they will always be generator types. If you love a manifesting generator, give them the freedom to go their own speed. Don't try to make them do one thing at a time. You also want to inform them. Don't let them inform you. You need to inform them too so they can plan accordingly. Don't take their anger and frustration personal. Remind them to play because sometimes they can take things a little too seriously. Try to keep up with them every once in a while. Be patient with their that's supposed to be step skipping. And don't judge them and get them to respond. Also, just a really quick thing, manifesting generators and manifestors both in relationships, they don't need people. They want people. They love people. That's different, but they don't need people. So in relationship, it creates a little bit of a different dynamic because the manifesting generator and the manifestor, because they have a motor already to the throat, they're not necessarily a people who needs people, which means sometimes they're not the best team players. Sometimes they're great leaders, but they also suck at it at delegating because they think, oh, it's just easier for me to just do it myself, because by the time I start using language to try to tell people what I want to do, it's going to take so much time, and then it's going to get interrupted, and it's going to not. Manifestors and manifesting generators need to be reminded gently that delegating is a good thing to do. And it's okay to let go and to trust. And don't be hurt if it seems like they don't need you. It doesn't mean they don't love you. And that's something very different. Okay, good. All right. Be well. Take care. Have a great weekend and a great week. Bye.